All right, very good. This is the November 17th meeting of the Municipality of Anchorage Board of Ethics. Madam Clerk, could we please have a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Ms. Pallison?
Here.
Ms. McPherson?
Here.
Mr. Goodstein?
Abram, you're on mute.
I didn't realize you could turn the audio off from everyone else. I couldn't hear anyone. I thought there was a weird thing going on.
Very good. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, very good. Do we have any additions or edits to the agenda?
Chair, I thought maybe you and Becky could report on your meeting with Ethics and Election if it's not already on there.
I agree. Yeah, let's put that under maybe, what do you think, new business?
And then I wanted to add something about the new member, of course, of what I would recommend to the chair, and also about training both new member and also our new attorney for the board, Megan.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Dee.
So why don't
Training, do you? Jeez.
So we'll make 7C the report back from the Ethics and Election Committee, and then we'll make 7D training for new members. Anything else? All right, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, very good. Let's take a look at our consent agenda then. Does anyone have anything from the consent agenda that they wanted to pull out?
Just a question. So we don't have Jack here today? I believe, did his term expire, Dee?
You know, I wondered about that because I think by the new appointment, it probably de facto expired his term either way. I was hoping that he would, and I didn't think about that, we would invite him to talk about the one of the Thompson opinion that he wrote.
Right.
So, but I'd like to address that in a deliberative session anyway before, so.
Yeah, looking at the email that went out, it looks like he's not even on the email list.
Right.
For
His term technically expired in October, right? Don't we all expire in October?
It expired in mid-October, and usually we let people hang on until the new member is in. And I take it, did the new member get approved by the assembly on Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay, so
and
yes.
In the code, Chair, there is a 120-day additional period after expiration of term that people stay in the position if there's no new appointment. So that's why that's there. There comes the hanging on part. But I think with the new appointment, his term is officially terminated.
Okay. All right. Very good then. All right. Yeah. So yeah, no Jack.
So we don't put them on our names when we do like write-ups for everything now. I just, because I've got mine going and I still have his name on there.
Yeah, I think strictly speaking, his name probably wouldn't be on it at that point.
Even though he was here when we talked about it.
Yeah,
okay.
But like new person wouldn't be on there either because new person will not vote on. Do we have a name for new person? Can we call new person something other than new person?
Yeah.
It's Joan Wilson.
Joan. Okay, Joan. So Joan would not sign either because she is not there.
And she does have, she's an attorney. She's worked at the AG. She was the attorney for one of the native consortiums. I'm not sure which one and with them for 4 or 5 years, she did ethics. And so she had not a municipal ethics background, but some type of ethics background. With some of the appointments, they were pulling off or not extending really well qualified people like Jack for people who weren't qualified in this particular case, Joan had an ethics background and is also a lawyer. And also Felix spoke in favor of supporting this confirmation.
Oh yeah, she was ethics and compliance officer at ANTHC.
Yeah, so, and an attorney, so. So Abram, you will still have to be the leader of the non-attorney alliance.
Okay. Well, I mean, Terry's also in that line too, right?
That's right.
Surely a philosopher and a rabbi
Yep.
equal the weight of 3 attorneys, right?
That was like sort of a
Oh
joke.
yeah, these are like legal adjacent. I've always thought of like the rabbinical profession as being legal adjacent. It's about reading and interpreting the law, right? Like,
Yeah, we have a lot of texts.
Right.
Yeah.
Abram and I are from wisdom professions. Right?
I love it. Ooh,
it's a good bad joke. A philosopher, and a rabbi, and a lawyer walk into a bar. And
Yeah, there you go.
Walk into an ethics board meeting. Yeah, that's funny that way.
Like endless possibilities, right? Okay, back to our meeting. Does anyone have any? Dee, do we have an update? As I recall, the Dooley matter and the Bishop matter, we were going to look into a little bit more. Dooley, there's a past history there, and then Bishop, it just seemed a little hard to believe that that there is no way she can influence those kinds of decisions.
And Mr. Chair, do we need to pull those two procedurally? Because if we do, I would ask for a moment just to look through the rest of them and make sure I haven't looked through the rest of the disclosures to make sure there's nothing else I would like to move that we pull other than the Bishop and Dooley for further conversation.
All right, so just for the matter of record, then, you're not prepared for today's meeting? Is that what you're saying?
Uh-oh.
I'm busy with my wisdom profession.
Yeah, why don't we all? Yeah, and that's the way it works. Yeah, I mean, so how about, why don't we just, I'd like to pull the Bishop and Dooley ones. How about everyone else take a look through and see? Remember, for consent agenda, we're just pulling stuff that we'd like to talk about more. Otherwise, everything else is going to get approved in one fell swoop. And then I guess, Dee, the only question I had for you is, David Whitting's signature seems to have changed radically in the last several or 8 letters that we got from him in this. What's going on there?
Okay, I don't know, so.
You're right. That's very, very astute.
You know,
Gary,
it doesn't look like a signature, and it definitely doesn't look like anything even close to the signatures we've typically gotten from him.
Maybe he broke an arm and had to sign with his other hand.
That's what I was wondering. Or broke both arms and had to sign with his toes or something.
Or is this like his electronic signature that he's using
Yeah.
in the COVID universe where it's been blown up and manipulated by Photoshop?
That's kind of what it looks like. Or also, I don't know if you I had to do an electronic signature for work and I had to write it on the computer with a mouse and it looks nothing like mine. So I say we give him the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
Where are you guys? I'm not even sure what you guys are looking at right now.
We're
Picture analysis.
Scroll past the minutes of the previous meeting.
Okay.
Which actually, my goodness, I'm sorry. Let's hang on. We blew right past number 4. Does anyone have any addition or edits or corrections to the minutes from the previous meeting? It looks like we've got minutes from 3 previous meetings: the August, September, and November 3rd meeting.
And Terry, can I, for Megan's benefit and to my benefit at all, the way we can access this is that someone from the clerk's office, and I don't know if it was Jenna or Jennifer, sent us the agenda with all the materials. Is that correct? Is that where I now search in my emails for who sent it to us so I can find it?
Yeah, Jennifer sent it to us. So
Okay.
Jennifer sent something on the 15th that had the packet.
So Megan, if you look for materials for, it's from, I never know how to say your name.
Wait ahead of you, Dee. I've got it. It's the
You
agenda
got it.
packet.
Okay, so it's just me. Okay, fine.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
Megan, anything I don't know, something I'm going to say, Megan needs to have this information. So.
Good. No, because I will not know anything else. That's the only thing that I know at this point.
Why is everyone involved with CRW Engineering Group?
Oh, wait a minute. Wait.
Now that I'm attuned to the signature issue too, I realized that all the CRW engineering group requests have the weird signature. And they're all here in one big chunk. They must have just gotten some sort of contract or something, but the weird signature tied to all of them also is strange.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Send a
literally, why
wellness
did,
check to David Whiting just to see how he's doing and if his
Yeah, right. We need some sort of proof of life or something like that.
yes, like
His signal that he's being held hostage somewhere.
by the CRW engineering group.
That's
That'd
right.
be a
That's
crazy headline. Board of Ethics noticed the danger of David Whiting through signature change. You know what I mean?
Our forensic handwriting analysis. We
this is very
where are we, Mr. Chair? Again, are we still I have nothing further I'd like to pull other than the Bishop and Dooley matters.
Very good. Does anyone else have anything else to pull from the consent agenda? When you're done reviewing it, put your head down in your lap, and so
And fall asleep for a few minutes. Yeah, cool.
Through the chair, we need to address item 4 minutes.
Yeah, I know. We totally went. We went out of order, and so so I'm going to exercise some chair prerogative here, and we'll just finish 5 since we're here, and then we'll circle back and we'll do 4.
I have no problem with any, no need to pull out any of the others besides the Dooley and the Bishop.
Okay, Abram, how about you?
I think I'm okay. Yeah, I think I'm good. I don't see any reason to pull anything out.
All right. So do I have a motion then to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 4A and 4B?
I move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 4A and 4B.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, consent agenda passes. Before we get into Dooley and Bishop, let's now circle back to 4 and look at the minutes from the previous meetings. Does anyone have any corrections to those minutes?
And I'm just looking at these to make sure that they don't disclose any of the persons involved with the confidential. So I'm scrolling through for confidential ones so we don't inadvertently, but I don't see any.
Is this the November 3rd meeting?
I'm looking at November 17th.
Okay.
Oh, no, I guess I'm not.
It's today. That's today, Dee. That's...
Oh, yep, there I am. July 21st and July 28th are the ones I guess I'm scrolling through. And I don't see anybody's names mentioned there, so. Yep, so I don't see any of those. And I'm quick looking at September 15th.
Okay, yeah, and the Thompson and Garash opinions, those were not confidential, is that right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see anything confidential that has cropped up in here.
Yep, and I don't either.
All right, so do we have a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes?
I'll move to approve them.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, the minutes passed. Let's take a look then at the Dooley and Bishop. Lisa and Dee, do we have updates? I think we had pulled those to get some more information. Any updates on those?
I can give you an update about Mr. Dooley. So there's 2 of them. There's one just like a disclosure for public solicitation, and then there's the other one is I forget what the other name of the form is. I should look at the 2 of them. There's 2 of them, and we dealt with something similar to this. I think it was last year or 2 years ago. Took a little digging to go back into the annals of board history, because I think the way that we dealt with one of these was set forth in a response to some type of opinion request back in 2011 or 2014. And I kind of know what he needs to put on his documents, and I've reached out to him, but I haven't heard back from him yet. The only question that I have for you guys is that it's pretty clear that he bid on, you know, there's a bunch of contracts that he bids on. Remember, he's the volleyball guy, the volleyball coach with, you know, you remember this, Becky. I think we went around and around with him. I think that he bids on a bunch of contracts, and we basically said it was okay for him to submit like one disclosure form, you know, that would capture all the contracts that he would bid on during the year. But I think he submitted his disclosure after he's gotten them. He didn't provide one in advance of, you know, all of them coming forward for this disclosure year. Do you guys have any concerns about that? Or, I mean, technically, I don't know. Remember, he has to do 2 disclosures. He's supposed to disclose before he actually submits a bid. And then he also has to disclose an interest, like a financial interest in a contract. Like he did 2 of them. But any worries about that? You know, we were going to reference, just like we did a couple years ago. I found exactly what we had done. We referenced, you know, per, you know, board opinion, blah, blah, blah. You know, this will cover the contracts for the year. And that's what I was, you know, proposing for him to do. I mean, he obviously didn't get this thing approved by his supervisor or signed by his supervisor, which is kind of the problem he had a couple of years ago. So, you know, we have to go back and do the same thing with him. But any concerns about the disclosure coming after the fact?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I think largely because, I mean, it's partially informed by our previous conversation with this particular individual, because I think it just demonstrates sort of a disregard for what is actually a situation that's somewhat close in terms of you know, being an ethical issue. So I don't know what route we take to instruct him to please adhere to, or if, you know, we don't really get to like deny his request for the contract, but it feels like we should somehow alert the folks who are involved that this is something that needs to be taken seriously, because this is in fact something that, because if I'm recalling correctly, right, this is very close to the line, because he actually does have some role in making decisions about, like he's like the coach, and also he's selling the team apparel, right?
And he sells apparel all over town. Like he goes to West High and he sells apparel, and he goes to East High, he coaches at East, and he goes to Service. I mean, he
all places where he has some role in the decision-making process, and then they buy things from him, right? So he's very close to the line of whether this is something that's reasonable.
The thing that annoys me about Mr. Dooley is that we told him what to do last time. I feel like we had to hold his hand and get him, and he did it, you know, he did it. But I'm telling him the same thing I did like 2 years ago.
So what do we do then?
What's
the next step? I mean, we don't really get to, like, if you worked for me, I'd be like, all right, no contract for you this year until you get your act together and do your work next time. But like he does, you know, what procedurally, what do we do?
That's the question. Yeah, I mean, if he comes to us with a solicitation before he bids in advance of the year starting, that's what I think happened last time. And then he made this disclosure and he said, this is going to cover, you know, per this advisory opinion, it's going to cover the entire year's worth of contracts. And, you know, I reminded him, look, there's blank signatures where you have to have your supervisor and the ethics officer sign. And we had a new ethics officer, so we went and dug that up for him. And, you know, he could just pull that thing out in advance of every fiscal year and just dust that off and do the same thing, but he didn't this year. So, you know, last time we just had him correct the form so we could evaluate it as a corrected version and look at it at the next meeting. But, you know, I'm all ears as to what, you know, I think he thinks it's all kind of silly. I think we knew that last time. But what do you guys think?
Is there some reason that he can't file it ahead of time, or it's sort of particularly onerous for him to file it ahead of time, or you think he just thinks it's not important, so doesn't do it?
I don't know. You know, I don't know, Aisha, that's a good question. I know that he didn't have a particularly high view of, I mean, we've dealt with him a number of times. I don't think he had a particularly robust view of the old ethics officer who is no longer with ASD. And so I think the two of them kind of had a little bit of a skirmish, but somehow it seems that the ethics is sort of, you know, a little bit of a nuisance and an inconvenience for him, because he has yet to submit something since we dealt with him the first time. He has yet to submit something that is entirely good during any fiscal year. It's a lot of work it's like we're correcting the process, and it's just not that hard.
But wasn't last year pandemic year, whether they even had sports?
Last year, we didn't even get anything, Dee. It was 2 years ago that we got something. So yeah. And that's probably why I was looking back in the history. It was 2 years ago, and you're probably right, because they didn't, you know, maybe that's exactly what happened.
I have no suggestion about what to do, but I do think that he should have to follow the rules like everyone else does.
Yeah, I mean, we always make him correct the form, and we'll make him do it again, which is what I plan to do, but it is a little annoying.
Maybe we add a paragraph, some type of warning for the future that the things that they're late filed, that they won't be acceptable, and that we copy his, you know, the new ethics officer. I don't know if we know who that is, but
we do. I think it's the same one, Dee. I looked him up. We tracked him down last time, and it's the same person, at least in ASD's, ASD's, where I looked. I think he's still there. Same guy. I mean, we could talk to that guy if we wanted to, but
But again, I think we could do a paragraph that said, you know, these should be filed on time, and we could come up with a simple paragraph that it's pretty clear that the board is becoming annoyed with his behavior, and that it might not be, granted next time. I mean, we could even be nice and say, you know, given the pandemic and this and that, but in the future, these must be filed on time or blank.
Listen, I'm trying to remember, did we wind up ruling for him that he could sell uniforms to ASD but not to East Volleyball? Is that what?
Well, that's an interesting question, Terry. I wrote it once with an analysis, and then we changed the analysis because we basically said that ASD has its own ethics rules and that we would defer to ASD's determination.
Yeah, Terry, he basically came to us for us to say our criteria, which were looser than ASD's, because ASD had said, no, you can't do this. So he came to us to have us overrule ASD. And we said, no, we are not we do not overrule ASD, that you have to still comply with their rules. And he was very dissatisfied with that response.
Yeah, he would call me like 3 times a week, trying to get a different answer.
I remember his effort at an end around. I couldn't remember if we had, because that was not the first dealing we had with him, right? I mean, so I thought perhaps we had an opinion on him earlier even than that, right? Because we had an opinion earlier than that where we said you could file just once a year. Because remember, like his original beef was like, I do 1 million of these contracts and I don't want to pay $15 every single time. Could I just do a 1 a year one? And I was wondering if maybe there we had said, yeah, you can do 1 a year. And I recall that we had said something, the letter that had something like, and if your situation changes, you need to come back to the board to present it. But I thought we had said you can't sell them to East because that would be a violation of the ethics code.
I don't think we went. I think that when we
that would have been a long time ago.
Yeah. I think we were I went and I looked at this the other day. And Terry, it was 2011 or 2014. What I did not find a response, but somehow I must have found it a couple of years ago. And I know exactly what we need to put at the top. I mean, I tracked down all my email correspondence with the clerk's office and all this stuff, but for some reason that response isn't right now on the website for the ethics board. The question is, but I know what we need to do to kind of correct the form, but I don't know how, the board, what its letter looked like that went out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I vividly remember dealing with him, and I haven't been on the board since 2017, right? Like I rejoined last fall, right? So we must have dealt with him. We must have several rounds with him if there was a 2 years ago, and then that would have been 4 or 5 years ago. Like, he seems like a repeat customer.
I want to say, Becky, that for some reason that I've only looked at his stuff one other time. I mean, we had the first go around when you were on the board, and then 2 years ago when we had a form, and then now this year. Yeah.
Well, and I think that Becky, maybe the first time and this time are about the solicitation aspect as he continued the group. It was the one in the middle where he was trying to get us to overrule ASD policies, and we said we wouldn't do it.
Okay, because I kind of remember that. Maybe I'm just hallucinating that, but I felt like I remember being involved in that. Granted, we could have talked about it at the meeting.
Oh, that was 2019.
Went over to the other side.
Dark side. Yeah, Becky, I do remember. I remember you being involved in it, and I remember, we had a lot of conversation about it. I'm trying to see if I can find what we wrote.
Yeah. Found an old agenda, October 2019. It looks like he was on the agenda, and then we met with the district ASD Ethics Officer and had a discussion with the ASD Ethics Officer. So, yeah. So Becky, that's just a couple of years ago. That was probably while you were on the board.
So yeah, I mean,
Julie. Yeah, I got his disclosure from 2019, but his advisory opinion, God, what do we got? It's going to drive me crazy. Oh, I did find the 2011. Actually, I just have his request. Can't see what we wrote. Oh, 2017 was the opinion. And I do have that here. Yeah, this is what we wrote, I think. We understand that ASD is determined under its own conflict of interest policies that you're prohibited from entering into contracts for the sale of sporting goods to East. We also understand that ASD has granted you a waiver to conduct business with ASD schools other than East, so long as the disclosure, competitive bidding, and other terms of the waiver are followed. ASD has the authority to adopt conflict of interest policies more stringent than those of the Municipal Ethics Code, as it has done in this instance. This board has jurisdiction over the application of the Municipal Ethics Code only, not ASD policies. Any opinion of the board concerning the facts of this case under the Municipal Ethics Code would be superseded by ASD's interpretation under its more stringent policies and thus would be moot. Because of this, the board is determined to discontinue its review of your request pursuant to blah, 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 blah.
Well, in that case, yeah, so it looks like ASD has got it covered. Yeah, so should we just send them a letter about the timeliness of his, let's see, so the disclosure was on time, right? Is that right? Is it the notice of solicitation? Is that the one that was late, Lisa?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, I mean, this is a tough one because I feel like if it was anybody else, we would probably say, no, it's fine. But we have a long history with this particular person kind of attempting to move around or not necessarily follow the process.
You know, the other question I have, guys, is that I wonder if there's been any different determination by the new ASD Ethics Officer. And, I'm sure Mr. Dooley could tell me that. But like I said, I've reached out to him. I haven't heard back from him yet.
Could you reach out to the new ethics officer and see?
I could. And because remember, I recall that the old ethics officer, the former one, and Mr. Dooley they did not see eye to eye. And I remember thinking he must be oh so happy that that prior guy is gone. But I don't know if the position has changed. Dooley was very, strongly of the opinion that ASD had it wrong. So, I mean, I can talk to the new person. And like I said, I think I can fix his, he needs to improve his disclosure. He needs to improve it, and I think it's pretty easy to do that, but I don't like that he's not notifying us in advance of his intent to bid on things.
Well, yeah, and in fact, Lisa, now that I'm looking at it, I mean, it looks like the form's not complete, the solicitation.
Yeah,
Right?
you can't.
He's signed by the ethics officer and his supervisor, and he didn't have that done.
Which he didn't do in 2019 as well.
Okay, well, yeah, so then I think we should draft a letter to him. Wow, I mean, I suppose, I guess here I will defer to the lawyers in the room. I mean, to me, he has not actually filed a notice of intent to respond to a public solicitation. I mean, he has filed something, but it's an incomplete form. So if
and I don't know the ASD procurement rules well enough, because my question then is, what this would technically be, because he required to have completed this before he can validly obtain a school district contract? And if so, does he now have an illegal school district contract because he has failed to complete the disclosure process? And I don't know, I mean, even having been the municipal attorney, ASD lives in its own world. So I don't know well enough whether this means that he has now, he now is in an illegal contract, or he should, if the contract has not yet been executed, if it cannot be executed because he has not done this. I don't know enough of the process there.
And does ASD, another question kind of following up on Becky's, maybe Dee knows the answer to this. Does ASD have its own, I mean, we see a ton of these types of documents from ASD employees, so I assume they don't have their own special forms for their own special ethics rules. I mean, the forms come to us, right?
Well, remember, this one particularly, though, is a municipal ethics code requirement. So the public solicitation part, if you notice, it's 115-100B1. So if you are a municipal employee and you're going to try to acquire a municipal contract, this has to be filed, and that's our ethics code.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that citation. It's 100-100B 115-100B1.
Well, that's
prior
what the form says. Let's see. It's
Yeah, that is it.
Yes, they have to do in advance
for the grant contract.
You know, what would make more sense, I've been thinking about this, is that ASD handle this for themselves. I don't know whether we can delegate it, because they do have their own rules. It's referenced in some of their other forms, and they're generally more stringent, but they're also more appropriate for ASD and how they deal with things. And so it's odd that we look at this one little thing, although we do the gifts as well. But this should be more in their world that they take care of this than just because he's a municipal employee.
And this is, so 115-100B states that he also is required to file his notice with the municipal clerk for electronic publication no less than 7 days in advance of the deadline for submitting a response to the solicitation.
Right.
Did that not happen either?
I guess it depends on when the contract solicitations were due. I mean, I don't know if that's on it was like he filed it on September 2nd, something like that.
That is, yeah, I'm trying to look for the other one. Where's the other one? He's got his disclosure of, where is it? How come I can't?
Oh yeah, the disclosure one, he's got more wiggle room, right? That one you can file 30 days after, right? I mean, that one can be filed late, but this other one can't. That's why it drew my attention. This one is got to be, it's got to be done right, and it's got to be done ahead of time. And remember, the idea is to make sure that the public is aware that a potentially, that someone who works for the city is seeking a city contract, and if people think it's fishy and everything, they can come to the board. So the idea is transparency. And the form's not done right. I don't know if it was done on time. That depends on when the contract bids were due.
Yep.
And remember when we had that person who wanted to bid on a There was an employee on a foreclosed property.
Oh, yeah.
He was late for the solicitation and we wouldn't let him do it.
Yep.
Right.
Then he tried to withdraw his request to us.
Right.
I
Well,
feel like no matter what we do with this thing, we're going to see the same stuff next year unless we take a different approach to just than what we've done in the past. And last time, I want to say that last time in 2019, we didn't get 2 forms. It was just, I can't remember if he disclosed it. It was a public solicitation. I can go back through all of that. But what he did last year was submitted an incomplete form, but he didn't have the same problem to the extent that I could tell of not notifying the municipality in advance of his intent to bid.
Yeah, so I think minimally we should, we need to inform, I think, ASD, right, that we don't have a completed notice of solicitation from him. I don't know, what their contracting process looks like and who's doing that, but we need to let someone on that side of the fence know that, and again, I'll defer to the lawyers here, but I don't see him having satisfied that requirement, at least from the ethics code. ASD probably has stuff that's even tighter. They should, they should probably know that he has tried, but not successfully submitted the form. Particularly, he's missing their signatures. He's missing his supervisor's signature and their ethics officer's signature.
Exactly what he did last time.
On what and then maybe depending on what they say, we need to send, I would think, a letter to him, alerting him to the fact that that he is not in compliance with the ethics code as far as this particular requirement goes.
I mean, maybe what we do is we just take these 2 forms and say that, these were submitted to the clerk's office and they're incomplete. Send them to the ethics officer for, I don't know who Dooley's supervisor is, but send them to the ethics officer for the school board and let them deal with that in the first instance.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, could we do that and maybe CC him or make him aware as well that, that to me, that's I guess I'd like him to know as soon as possible that if he is operating under the assumption that he has successfully filed this form, that is not the case.
Yeah, would that form come from the clerk's office? Would it come from, I mean, it's not a complete form. It's almost not ripe for review.
That's right. I mean, and he might think he's got the little stamp on it, right? So, he handed it in, someone stamped it. He goes, okay, I'm done, but it's not the case. And he needs to know that, and ASD needs to know that. And again, yeah, because they've had, issues with him potentially in the past, they need to be aware it's happening.
So Dee, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that letter should go to the ethics officer for the school board, school district? Or should it go to Dooley, or should it go to both? And should it come from the ethics board? Should it come from the clerk's office? I feel like it should almost come from the clerk's office because it's not complete yet for review. But maybe I'm wrong.
I think that's asking the clerk's office to do too much work. I mean, they are the acceptance of forms.
Okay.
So just to be fair to the clerk's office, I think it'd be better that, we receive this from the clerk's office. It would be better from us that it is incomplete. And yeah, I don't want to put more work in the clerk's office.
Okay.
And who does it go to, Dee? To him or to the ethics officer, or both?
Well, how about both? That's easy enough. You're on mute, Abram.
Thank you. I'm not sure, maybe I missed it, but did anyone else realize that it was stamped on September 1st, but he wrote September 2nd on the form?
What was that? Oh, that's weird.
Isn't that weird?
He's a little disorganized.
Well, and he's got the section there where there's something was supposed to be filled in by the purchasing officer, and the purchasing officer is supposed to, and then it looks like it's just typed in. The integrity of the public solicitation process is not adversely affected by this reward, but there's no signature and date. I think he just typed that in there.
Oh, weird.
Well, and it'd be a good opportunity to reestablish a phone call to this ethics officer I'm not sure if this is just one of 80 of his duties and he's not particularly keen on it, I think was my impression last time around. But it's still an opportunity to make contact with him. And my recommendation is that Megan is part of that phone call and possibly myself, because when the bishop thing comes up, I will make the sort of a similar recommendation that we do establish rapport with this ethics officer. So we'll have both Dooley, which it probably is more of an administrative annoyance to this ethics officer, but the bishop one will not be. So we'll catch his attention.
Well, Dave, what do you think you could schedule some sort of call then? Is that what you're thinking, like a call or I think, yeah, you want to schedule something and, and you and I and Megan and whoever else we think is, wants to join in can join in, establish some rapport with the new ethics officer and kind of bring up the situation?
Sure. And Lisa, is this a new ethics officer? Because didn't we talk to a new ethics officer a year ago or 2 years ago?
I can't remember if I had any, I don't know if I talked with him. I think I may have. It was 2 years ago. He was on board 2 years ago. I can find his name.
And Terry, didn't you just reference that somebody came and talked to us at the board? Was it a new ethics officer, I thought, from ASD?
In 2019, at least that's what's on the agenda, is discussion with ASD Ethics Officer.
Well, can I sort of recommend initially maybe just Lisa and I, Megan call, find out who it is, explain some of this, and then if it isn't that same person, or maybe whether it is that maybe we say, hey, let's reestablish and have you come and talk to the board again.
I like it. I think it's a good idea. Okay, good. So any more about Dooley then? All right, that's the course of action then we'll take with that. And so Dee, so Bishop, what you said you're going to have some similar advice about Bishop?
Yeah, and I did not work that any further. And this is the one where Dina Bishop's husband owns 55% interest in ACS, which provides voice services and data communication products to ASD. And it's simply a matter of, I think that it is the stuff we normally look at. Was this a competitively solicited contract? Does she have any control over administration or selection, which my understanding is actually the board, school board, but I don't know enough about it. And so I was to ask additional questions, but this would be a perfect one to bring up with new ethics officer.
Okay, good.
And that this board felt concerned that how could she not have sort of influence on this, but I mean, I think
just a quick factual correction. Bill Bishop owns 0.55% of ACS, not 55% of ACS. Just.
I was wondering if that was a sort of a typo, Becky. I wondered if someone meant, can't tell if someone meant to say 55% and then mistakenly kind of doubled up and said 0.55 and
No. I mean, ACS was publicly traded until fairly recently. They were purchased by so now they're privately held by a company in the lower 48. But they've been publicly traded for some time. It's 100% unbelievable if that one person would own 55% of the company. So that was like,
well, Becky, I was very impressed with that. I have to tell you, I said, wow. So looking at this again and reading the percentage point correctly, that's really probably a fairly de minimis.
No, I mean, I still see it as substantial because he is the president and CEO of the company. So 100% his professional, and we impute his interest to her, right? Because they share a household, they are married. So I would assume, I know this to be a very large contract because this is also the business in which I work. I still think there's a substantial potential conflict of interest because it's a very large size contract being awarded to the person in like a company that her spouse is in charge of, even if I don't know what his financial compensation package looks like, but regardless, it certainly would impact his performance. I'm sure impacts his compensation, even if he only owns 0.55% of the overall company.
Okay, so then Becky, do you agree though that the inquiry would be along the lines of how much control she has over the solicitation? Is it competitively solicited? Does she have any role in the selection process or the administration of the contract? that it would still.
Yeah,
be-
and then how is she firewalled off from having, I assume that she's, hopefully she's not involved, and then how do they make sure that it's clear that, that her office is not involved in something this substantial?
Okay. Okay. But anyway, I thought we'd start with the new ethics officer again, and then it would help to have Lisa and Megan there to keep me on track with that as well.
By the way, Dee, just in case you're wondering, Matthew Teaford, who's the Chief Human Resources Officer.
Yep, I remember that name.
And I'm finding an email that I laid a bunch of this stuff out, and I might just send that to you and Megan.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
And Lisa will bug me until I get this done, so that is why you should put us as a group on this particular project.
Group project.
Sounds good. All right, good. So that being said, then I think we can move on to 6 in unfinished business. Abram, we have from you, is that the letter you were going to send?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that Jennifer wasn't in this in this meeting. And I just sent her my letter a few minutes ago, and so I think maybe Jenna is the taking her spot. How do I ethically give this letter to you guys?
I wonder if you can share it. Are you able to use the share tray?
Let me try. Hold on.
Oh, wait a minute, but don't share it. No, I'm sorry. Wait, we've got to go into executive session, maybe even deliberative session, right before we share that one, because that's confidential. So, do we have a motion to move? Dee, what do you think? Deliberative session or executive session?
I think let's go to deliberative.
I think so too. Yeah. Do we have a motion to move to deliberative session?
I move we go into deliberative session.
Second.
Second.
Any objections? Hearing no objections, Madam Clerk, let's please move to deliberative session.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and so we just finished our discussion of the confidential notice of potential violation, 2021-5, and perhaps there is a motion to approve the letter that's been written and have it signed off by Chair Kelly and then sent on to the person who filed the initial complaint. Do we have a motion along those lines?
I would make that motion with the addition that we would approve the letter being finalized in accordance with the minor technical edits discussed in deliberative session.
Second.
And then sent to Chair Kelly for execution.
Oh, I like that execution.
In accordance with his wisdom.
Engage.
Second, except for the wisdom part.
No wisdom involved.
I'll have to make, okay, do we have a motion to amend the original motion to add wisdom back in?
Yeah, I move to add wisdom back into the original motion.
Do we have a motion to split the original motion then, so we can consider those two items? Sorry. Any objections? Any objections?
Really terrible. Like the poor clerk's office is gonna. This minute situation is gonna be terrible.
Board is hereby disbanded.
This is why Jennifer throws a rock through my window a couple times a year. All those in favor of the unamended original motion, say aye.
Aye.
No. Those against say no. Okay, motion passes. Very good.
But you were voting against your own
I
motion.
voted
You're like,
against it
no.
No wisdom means no approval from me. All right. Well, geez. I mean, I don't know why B and C are on the agenda. You know, and we can't talk about their substance because they're confidential. But Becky, my recollection was they were moot. Was that your recollection as well?
Let me just pull up these. I mean, these were each requests that were. Yeah, I think they are moot, right? Yep.
I think so too. So
there's no longer a public. Well, I think that the technical reason they're no longer moot, right, is because they do not concern a public servant at this time, because the subject of the request is no longer a public servant, and ergo they're not valid requests under the ethics code, correct?
Can I suggest so we could use real words that we do go back into deliberative?
Okay.
Way over my head, I'm going, wait a minute.
I understand. So, Madam Clerk, because we would like, the board is going to discuss the two related requests for advisory opinions, 2021-6 and 7, both were confidential requests. So we're going to move into deliberative session because of their confidentiality, but we will discuss both 6B and 6C in that session. Is there any objection to moving to deliberative session? Hearing no objection, Madam Clerk, please move us to deliberative session. Engage.
And proceed.
Mr. Chair, you are back in open session.
All right, so we're back in open session where we've just had a very enriching conversation about request for advisory opinion 2021-6 and 7. And we're going to be moving on now to request for advisory opinion 2021-8, which is also confidential. And so
Do we, wait, Mr. Chair, do we need to make I had understood us to reach the, basically decision to request from the clerk's office clarification of whether we might store draft, like we should be on the record state what our direction is with those two opinions.
All right, is that a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we request that I guess Lisa, will you follow up with the clerk to assess whether there is a place for storage of draft opinions, which are rendered moot by the fact pattern and thus not officially issued, and report back to the board. So we decided on.
Happy to do it.
Second?
Second.
Any objection? Hearing no objection, the motion passes. So thank you, Lisa. Now let's move on to request for advisory 2021-8, which is also confidential. And so do we have a motion to move back into deliberative session?
I move that we move back into deliberative session.
Second? Any objection? Hearing no objection, Madam Clerk, please move us back into deliberative session.
Session.
All right, very good. Well, we're back in open session, and we have been discussing request for advisory 2021-8, which is confidential. Do we have a motion regarding this request for advisory? Maybe along the lines of asking the principal party to come join us for our next meeting?
Yeah, we had sort of a two-part motion, right? We'd like to have the principal ask the principal party to return to us in our next meeting and also ask him or other members of the administration for any additional available information on the nature of his job description. Correct.
Maybe you should make the motion, Becky.
What?
Was that the motion or was that just describing the motion?
That was my motion. I moved.
Okay. Okay, you made the motion.
Request,
I second that.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Yes. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, that motion passes. We are at 4:36, so we are beyond time. So I think we will postpone our consideration of 7A and 7B to our next meeting, which is our next regular meeting is December 15th at 2:30. Do we have any member comments? Audience participation.
I appreciate, Mr. Chair, that you have. I feel a little like I'm on a TV program with you with your big microphone there. It's like.
Yeah, I noticed the microphone too. It's so cool.
Right, it's like Talk of the Nation, right? I feel like I'm hosting.
Yeah, you're like a
classes totally feel like I'm hosting a talk show. It really does.
I also feel a little taste of what it must be like to be your student when you're like, are you saying you're unprepared for class today?
Ooh, it makes you sweaty to hear like that. Right? Yeah, a comment like that. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind, right? Now, but like you, Becky, they know the students by at least like 3 weeks in, they know not to take me all that seriously. They get the shtick pretty early. They were really shocked. I mean, the first couple of classes, when someone, especially live classes, when someone raises their hand and I say, "Who the hell are you?" Right? They're like, "Why?" They're really frightened. And then a couple of weeks in, they're like, "Oh yeah."
Like, yeah.
Really, yeah.
Normal antics.
Normal antics, right?
Yeah.
Audience participation. All right, very good. And I guess we'll do 10B, setting meeting dates for 2022. We'll do that at our next meeting as well. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, Becky and Abel, for coming in today. Dee, Lisa, as always, thank you so much. Megan, thanks for coming in and learning the ropes. And who was our Jenna? Jenna, you were our clerk for the day. Thank you so much for moving us back and forth all around the virtual world of deliberative and open sessions.
I know we're adjourned and I'm not supposed to do this, but we do need to do training for Megan, new attorney, and for new member before the next board meeting.
Okay.
So should I mean, normally that's you, should it be you and me, whatever, that we do need to do that. Or does someone else want to participate in that? It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, Dee, you want to shoot at least me an email? Is anyone else interested in joining that for the training? Becky, would you be interested in joining for the training of the new member and Megan?
Well, Megan needs the training, so she'll be part of that.
Okay. I know we're doing it for years. It's a shtick we've got, but if you would like to join us,
Sure, I'd be happy to join. Yeah.
okay.
We just quickly run through the code, literally. We just go right through it. And
No, don't tell me that. Yeah, I need detailed instructions. I think this is going to get political.
Oh no, we provide principal context. It's a dog and pony show. It's like, Dee keeps me moving along. It's like, she moves us along, and then I provide context and some philosophy and some principles, and then she cuts me off and we move along. It's the only way we ever get anything done.
Dee, what do you have in terms of the historical record? Because I think one of the major things you bring to every conversation at the Muni, but particularly here at the Board of Ethics, and Terry, you carry as well because of your long tenure on the board, but which we'll lose if you decide to leave the board at any point, is this context of, this is what the code looks like now, but, very short number of years ago, it looked totally different. And like, kind of, these are some of the things that have historically changed. Do you have like a historical, I feel like there's more like, there's like a transition of that sort of historical knowledge and record that maybe needs to be handed to Megan in addition to just the standard. Like, I feel like the standard new board member training is more sort of needs to be more focused on like, this is what the code says now and what your job is here on the board. But there is this historical bit that I don't know how much of that you have retained in your office or how much of that is transferable.
I don't think that is written anywhere, but that would be a very good thing to relay to Megan.
Yes, I would be interested in the history because it sounds like the board has changed a lot over time, as far as its purpose and, its powers.
Even just the old ethics code, which isn't online anywhere, but like Title I was that 2017 when we rewrote it?
Yeah, about.
Well, and then there was the first rewrite, right, Dee? Wasn't there was a rewrite
just
during the board? And so. Yeah, I've been meaning to do that for forever, to start writing some sort of like, annotated version of the code or something like that, filling in like the old details and how we've interpreted stuff in the past and everything. Yeah.
Maybe would the clerk's office have that type of thing?
No.
I'm sure anyway.
I think it's really they have the old codes, and I think I have some of the old codes in my office too, but, like as we read through provisions, Terry and I could annotate it verbally. We could, do we at some point just say that on a tape and someone transcribes it, or because there is, a lot of those provisions really do have a history to them and why it's changed. So Becky's asking us to do a great deal of additional work in my last month.
I know. I feel like the theme of the last 24 hours, I wanted to apologize to you, Dee. I feel like yesterday I was like, and let's create more assignments for Dee from the assembly. What is the outcome of the assembly meeting? More work for Dee.
And I can't even remember what my assignment was yesterday. I'll have to
it was to figure out before you go, what do we need to do to the code to acknowledge, like, there is no codified ethics officer role. Right. And like, in your absence, should that be codified? Or I could also see a lot of danger to codifying it, right? Because then, especially in this environment, I would foresee an assembly administration battle over who appoints the ethics officer, and then who confirms the ethics officer, and then who controls the ethics officer, right? So,
and just to be clear, is that the position that I would be taking on?
Yeah,
Well,
because
yes, that's
people
what,
consider
yes.
D the ethics officer, even though that's not a thing.
Exactly, yes. And when I read the code, that's what I was initially concerned about. It says, wait a minute, you can't be an active municipal employee, and I didn't want to be subject to confirmation. Didn't make any sense to me, so yes.
Okay, well, maybe Becky, I can just discuss that with you at some point too.
That sounds good. I think I owe you lunch or a drink, so we could do it there too if we want to.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah. Well, okay, well, good. Yeah, let me get back in contact with you, Becky. And it might be we can also work on some Ron Thompson questions.
true.
Oh, I can say that. It's not confidential.
Okay, everyone, I got to go pick up Elias from school. Thanks for coming today. Great work.
Bye, guys.
See you all next.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.